So in order to move into functional breathing and understand it completely and remedy and rescue the breathing or recover correct functional breathing, we need to consider three aspects. It's actually really important to understand this. If you are going to continue, if you're going to learn more about the Buteyko method, if you're indeed going to practice, whether that's in my program that's coming up or somewhere else, it's important that you know that these three aspects must be attended to in any kind of training that you do. And the first one is biochemistry. And that's balancing out the carbon dioxide and oxygen in the body. Now, this is really important because when we hyperventilate, what we do is we actually breathe off the carbon dioxide at too great a rate. And this is what Dr. Buteyko discovered. And his entire theory is based on the fact that when people overbreathe, when people hyperventilate, they breathe off too much carbon dioxide, and therefore they have dysfunctional breathing. That was the basis of his thesis. And that still holds true, but we are discovering other important parts of the equation at the moment. So when you hyperventilate, it's not a case that you breathe in too much oxygen, you breathe out too much carbon dioxide. So the biochemistry, the balance of these gases is very important. Getting everything back into balance leads to functional breathing. You can't have functional breathing without this. Biomechanics is simply the movement of the breath in your body. We're talking about the breathing apparatus, the muscles that you use to breathe and everything else that's associated with it, your rib cage, your connective tissue, your airways, and all of the bits and pieces that you can think of, the lungs, all of the air sacs, the alveoli, the bronchial tubes, the whole kit and caboodle. We need to make sure that the mechanics of breathing and how that apparatus is working is correct. And if you want to think about it in a mechanical sense, it's like making sure that your car is working correctly, that there aren't any parts of the engine, for example, that are not working optimally. This, of course, speaks to breathing deep rather than breathing shallow. And we will go through that in a moment. And then the third part, this often gets missed, is psychophysiology, which is basically your mind-body connection. We know now that there's a whole lot of nervous system connections. There is definitely the phrenic nerve and the vagus nerve that we need to talk about when we talk about breathing and health and wellness and feedback through the body. As we talked about before, when you're calm, you breathe in a certain way. When you're stressed, you breathe in a certain way. However, you can breathe in a way that leads to calm or to stress. And speaking about the vagus nerve, the communication with that nerve is mostly from the body to the brain. About 90% actually comes from the body to the brain. So if you're breathing in a certain way, the brain likely responds in a certain way. If you're breathing high, erratic, fast, the brain will think or perceive that you are in a stressful situation. So what I really want to impress upon you today is that functional breathing is nasal breathing that is light, slow, deep, and smooth. It's worth reading again. Functional breathing is nasal breathing that is light, slow, deep, and smooth. So again, if you just check in with yourself, are you breathing this way now? Are you breathing through your nose? Is your breath light? You can think of light as just a gentle breath in through the nose. You can't really hear it. Big breathing makes a noise. You can hear when people big breathe. Slow breathing is fairly obvious. It means that you don't have a very fast frequency of breathing. If you think about there being 60 seconds in a minute, if you're breathing 20 times, that's in and out every 3 seconds. That's quite fast. If you tried to do that yourself, you would probably find that you get a little bit worked up because it's quite fast to breathe that much. But it happens when you're stressed out, when you have asthma and things like that. So nose breathing is massively important, massively important. And if I could, again, give you one tip and one tip only, and you only remembered this from today's session, it would be close your mouth. The one thing that you must do to improve your asthma symptoms is breathe through your nose at all times. Now, you may be questioning me at the moment. You may be thinking, but my nose is blocked, my nose is irritated, I can't breathe through one of my nostrils. We are going to get to that in a moment because the Buteyko method has an exercise that can help with that. But first, why bother? Well, it's because there's a massive difference between breathing through your mouth and breathing through your nose. When we breathe through our nose, we use all of the breathing apparatus that we were, let's say, built with. The nasal cavity is a very complex structure that moistens, warms, and filters the air. It also controls, meaning reduces the volume of air that's coming in, which is very good because we don't want a massive turbulent amount of air rushing into our lungs because it can irritate the lining of the lungs. So that's the reduce of turbulence, but also controlling the breath volume is important because you don't overbreathe. When you breathe through your mouth, a lot of oxygen comes in, a lot of carbon dioxide goes out. So breathing in and out of the nose is important. The other point here is I've written increases NO uptake. NO is nitric oxide. This is another gas that's only recently been discovered. It was discovered in the 90s. It's largely unknown as to what it does. What we do know is it is synthesized in the nasal sinuses, at least that's what we believe at the moment. It helps with blood circulation and also the circulation of the air into the lungs. It's antibacterial and antiviral in nature. So given the current climate with the concern of viruses around, nasal breathing becomes even more and more important because we are reducing the amount of air we breathe in, we are filtering that air, and we are also increasing the intake of nitric oxide, which is antiviral in nature. It's ticking a lot of boxes. There are some times when you will need to breathe through your mouth. It is a secondary airway. Of course, if you cannot possibly breathe through your nose, you must breathe through your mouth, and that's completely understandable. And if you have been exercising to your limit to recover your breathing, you will need to breathe through your mouth for a period of time before you can recover to nasal breathing. However, I would suggest, unless you are a professional athlete, you probably don't need to push yourself that far, and you could exercise only up until the point that you feel the need to mouth breathe, and that could be your limit, and you will still get a massive physiological effect and an adaptive effect. I'm not going to get into fitness today because we'll go off on a tangent. It's another one of my favorite things to talk about. What's interesting is there was a study that was done that found that in and around 17% of the population are mouth breathers. There are some problems with the understanding of what that 17% means, whether that means people that breathe through their mouth all the time or some of the time. In my estimation, most people will actually breathe through their nose at least some of the time. The problem is when we shift, or when someone shifts to mouth breathing without being aware of it. And this can happen throughout the day. If you're just not paying attention to your breathing, it's really easy just to shift over and take a couple of big breaths through your mouth. And then all of a sudden, those things that we talked about earlier, these three keys start to fall apart. The biochemistry goes out, the biomechanics are incorrect, and then there's a possible impact on the mind-body connection. So even if we shift over to mouth breathing in an unconscious way for a little bit of time, we can negatively affect our ability to functionally breathe. The one thing you must do to improve your asthma symptoms is breathe through your nose at all times. Now, what I would like to introduce to you now is an exercise that comes from the Buteyko method. It does require you to hold your breath. It is what we call a strong hold. So if you do, in fact, have a concern with any of those issues that we talked about right at the top, and I'll show you, I won't show you again on the screen because my pretty face is on the screen at the moment, but we don't really want to be causing you any concerns, especially if you're in the first trimester of pregnancy. Hypertension, panic disorder, thrombosis, hypertension, they can be a definite problem with this exercise. I would normally not introduce this very early, but what I have found is this is the exercise that most people say, wow, okay, something's going on here. So for the purposes of this workshop, I'm introducing it to you today. Please be safe. Let me explain the exercise to you. The exercise is quite simple. You sit in an upright posture. I find just sitting in a chair is quite good if you don't have to sit on the floor in anything resembling a yoga position or anything like that. And close your mouth, and just for a few rounds of normal breathing, breathe in and out of your nose. Just in your own time. Your tongue is gently resting on the roof of your mouth. And on the next exhalation, and I will show you this now in a short version, just so you can see what it is. On the next exhalation, you pinch and hold your nose, and you gently move your head up and down and side to side. So breathing in, breathing out, pinch and hold the nose. Now it's just a gentle movement of the head. Don't do it just yet. And it's definitely not a big fast movement. It's just a gentle movement of the head. And you are holding the breath on the exhalation until you feel a strong desire to breathe again. So you may feel tingles in your fingers. You may feel a little tremor in your throat. These are all signals from your body that carbon dioxide is building up. That's all okay. As soon as it feels like you need to take a breath, you just release your nose and breathe through your nose again. So if you are going to do this, just pay attention to which of your nostrils is open and maybe one of them is closed. Pay attention to how much air is coming in and out of your nose, if there's any blocking. And then after you've done the exercise, you just reassess and see what's going on. So this is the nose unblocking exercise.